When I retired from the Army after 22 years, all I wanted was peace. I'd spent more than half my life in uniform, Afghanistan, Iraq, Germany, even a stretch in South Korea. I'd seen enough chaos and noise to last me 2 lifetimes. I didn't need much, just a quiet home, a tight-knit community, and a flagpole out front where I could raise Old Glory every morning. That's what brought me to Cedar Pines. It was the kind of place you imagine when you think of small-town America. Gated, quiet, full of pine trees and good, clean streets. The lawns were trimmed, people waved at you when you passed by, and the homes looked like something out of a Norman Rockwell painting. The moment I drove down Patriot Lane and saw all those American flags lining the porches, I knew was home. I bought a brick one-story at the end of the cul-de-sac. Nothing fancy, but solid. A big front porch, a little garden patch in the back, and enough room for me and Ranger, my German Shepherd. And the only buddy who'd stuck with me through every move since I left active duty. I spent the first few weeks getting settled, hung up my medals in the den, put my unit photo above the mantel, and set up my old Army boots by the door, right where I could see 'em every morning. Some habits don't fade. Every morning I'd wake up before dawn, just like I always had. I'd grab a cup of black coffee, clip Ranger's leash, and do a loop around the neighborhood. I liked it that way, watching the sun come up, hearing the birds. Folks were friendly. They waved, asked me where I served, thanked me for my service. A few of them were veterans themselves. We shared a nod that only guys like us really understand. I wasn't trying to make waves. I just wanted to live simply, lend a hand when needed, and keep to the values I was raised. With respect, honesty, loyalty. I joined the local VFW, volunteered to help with the JROTC kids at the nearby high school, even fixed up the flagpole. In the center of the neighborhood park, when no one else stepped up, I figured if you live in a place, you should give something back to it. For a while, it felt good. I'd finally found a place where I didn't have to watch my back. A place that respected the flag, honored tradition, and let an old soldier enjoy the quiet life he earned. But I'll tell you something, I've learned the hard way. Sometimes, the real battles don't happen overseas. They happen right here behind white fences and fake smiles. And the enemies, they don't wear uniforms. They wear name tags, sit on committees, and smile while they stab you in the back. I moved to Cedar Pines for peace. What I got was war. Day 1, I move in. I unload my boxers, shake a few hands, wave at neighbors who looked like they were genetically engineered to wear pastel polos and mow their lawns at 7 a.m. sharp. All good. Ranger gives the backyard a once-over, declares it acceptable, and I sleep like a rock day 2. I install my flagpole 20 feet of beautiful silver aluminum straight as a drill sergeant's back. Bolted in with concrete, I mixed myself, just like I learned in Fort Benning. Took me all morning. I even had a little ceremony when I raised the flag, played taps on a Bluetooth speaker, saluted, had a cold iced tea in my lawn chair while Old Glory danced in the Georgia breeze. It was perfect. And then, day 3, that's when the war started. I step out onto my porch with my morning coffee, ready for my usual neighborhood patrol with Ranger. But instead of peace and quiet, what do I find taped to my door? A blinding yellow flyer, flapping in the breeze like some kind of bureaucratic bat signal. Bold. Underlined text, like it was screaming at me, flagpoles are prohibited by HOA Visual Uniformity Code, Section 8B. Remove within 48 hours, or B, fined $100 day. Now, I've dealt with Taliban checkpoints less aggressive than this note. I stare at it for a second, thinking, what in the unholy paperwork circus is Section 8B, Visual Uniformity Code? Are we talking about houses or a boot camp, haircut inspection? I take the flyer down, walk inside, and sit at my kitchen table with Ranger, watching me like, you gonna let them talk to you like that, Sarge? I brew a fresh cup, dig out the HOA welcome packet, which, by the way, was thicker than most military field manuals, and flip through it like I'm looking for enemy coordinates. There it is. Section 8B buried between guidelines on mulch colors and proper mailbox angles. Apparently, flagpoles taller than 6 feet disrupt the visual harmony of the community. Visual harmony? My flagpole is disrupting visual harmony. Meanwhile, just down the street, someone's got a 10-foot inflatable flamingo in their yard, and nobody's writing them love letters taped to their door. And let's not forget the neighbor with solar-powered garden gnomes that light up like a runway at Hartsfield-Jackson every night. But no, my crime was patriotism on a pole. I showed the flyer to Ranger. He sneezed on it. I took that as a vote of support. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who goes looking for trouble, but if it knocks on my door, tapes itself there in yellow paper, and threatens me with $100 a day fine, well, I've been trained to respond. Didn't come to Cedar Pines to pick a fight, but I also didn't retire from the United States Army just to be pushed around by someone named Linda with a clipboard and a passion for shrub symmetry. This wasn't just about a flagpole anymore. This was about principle. Now, I'm not the kind of man to jump to conclusion, but I knew the type. You've seen her. Everyone's seen her. Mid-50s, short, aggressive bob haircut, the kind that looks like it comes with its own built-in headset, and passive-aggressive authority. Permanent frown etched on her face like it was carved there during a neighborhood bake sale gone wrong. Probably drives a beige SUV, drinks decaf, and dreams of filing noise complaints in alphabetical order. Yup, that had to be Karen. I figured. This whole thing was just a mix-up. Maybe someone got a little excited with the printer and the duct tape. So I did what any reasonable adult would do. I showed up to the next HOA meeting, polite, respectful, wearing a clean button-down and my veteran's cap. I even brought donuts, the good kind, too, glazed, jelly-filled. None of that low-fat brand nonsense. I waited patiently through 5 minutes of community flower bed optimization and garbage bin lid alignment policy before I finally raised my hand. I stood up, cleared my throat, and gave them my best comm sergeant voice. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, "I installed a flagpole in my yard to proudly fly the American flag, something I defended for over 20 years in the service. And according to the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005, I have every right to do so. I even passed out printouts of the actual law, highlighted and everything." Ranger was sitting patiently outside the door, tail wagging like a loyal paralegal. That's when Karen, of course, it was Karen, adjusted her reading. Glasses, like she was about to deliver a Supreme Court ruling, leaned forward and hit me with, "This gem, federal law doesn't override HOA guidelines in this community. Mr. Daniels, we value uniformity here." Uniformity. I spent 2 decades in a place where uniforms meant something. Discipline, respect, duty. But in Karen's mind, uniformity meant everyone's mailbox had to be painted creekside taupe, and your petunias had to be planted in symmetrical clusters of 5. And just to drive the point home, she handed me a laminated pamphlet, lighted, titled Cedar Pines, Visual Expectations Manual. She handed it to me like it was the neighborhood's holy scripture. I half expected angelic music to play when I opened it. Inside, 32 pages of absolute nonsense. Shrubbery height diagrams, approved birdhouse, colors, and a 2-page spread on acceptable wind chime decibel levels. I closed it slowly, looked her in the eye, and said, "Ma'am, with all due respect, I'm not taking down that flag." She smiled, and not the good kind. The kind of smile a cat gives a mouse before the pounce. "Well then," she said sweetly, "fines will begin first thing tomorrow morning." And boy, she wasn't kidding. Day 1, $100. A printed invoice slid into my mailbox, like a speeding ticket from a smug speed trap. Day 2, $200. This time delivered in person by Karen in a plastic sleeve. Bless her heart, day 5, $500. That one came with a note. Non-compliance jeopardizes community harmony. Harmony. Meanwhile, one guy down the street had Christmas lights still up in July, and another had a flamingo wearing sunglasses in their front yard. But my flagpole was the national threat. I paid nothing, but I was taking notes. Oh, I was documenting everything. Timestamps, emails, photos, even the way Karen's left eye twitched every time I mentioned federal law. See, I might have been retired, but I wasn't out of the fight. And if Karen wanted a war over a flagpole, well, she just picked the wrong soldier. After that 5th fine showed up $500. Itemized with a non-patriotic compliance surcharge, yes, that was real. I decided it was time to stop playing defense. I started talking to neighbors, quietly, respectfully, the way you do when you're trying to figure out whether you're surrounded by good people or hostages. And let me tell you, it didn't take long to uncover the truth. Turns out, Karen had been running the HOA like it was her own personal dictatorship for nearly a decade. She wasn't just the president, she was the self-declared queen of Cedar Pines, and her court was a bunch of clipboard-wielding minions who all wore visors and took HOA bylaws more seriously than the U.S. Constitution. One neighbor, sweet old man named Joe, got fined $50 for having sunflowers in his garden. Sunflowers, according to Karen, they were too tall and emotionally aggressive. Another lady got written up because her wind chimes violated the Auditory Tranquility Clause. I'm sorry, what now? Auditory Tranquility Clause. Is that a real law or something she pulled from the Karen Codex? There was even a couple who got a warning because their Halloween skeleton exhibited poor posture. This wasn't a neighborhood. It was North HOA, yeah. And here's the thing, people weren't okay with it. They were just scared. Scared of being fined. Scared of being reported. Scared of ending up in the next passive-aggressive community newsletter with their lawns circled in red. But me, I've faced bigger tyrants than Karenand. They didn't laminate their rules, so I made a phone call before I retired. I handled logistics for the Army, and during that time, I worked with a lot of private contractors, folks who built everything from missile casings to modular latrines. One of those companies specialized in steel poles, military signage, and yes, flagpoles. So I called up my old buddy Dave. Now Dave's the kind of guy who once welded a barbecue grill out of tank parts just to win a tailgate competition. We go way back, Mark, he says. You calling about work or revenge? I said, little bit of both. Turns out, Patriot Foundry LLC, one of the suppliers Karen's beloved HOA used for street signs, fence posts, and, yes, flagpole repairs, was circling the drain financially. Slow payments, dropped contracts, bad Yelp reviews from a guy who claimed the fence looked judgmental. They were one invoice away from foreclosure. Within 2 weeks, thanks to a well-timed investment and a favor from Dave's brother-in-law, who handles corporate filings, I officially owned 51% of Patriot Foundry. LLC. The name on the documents. Mark Don't Tread Me Daniels. Guess who's Cedar Pines had an exclusive 5-year contract with for all their neighborhood signage, fencing, and decorative street lamps. Yep, that same company. So, let's do the math. Karen's HOA can't install, repair, or maintain anything metal in this neighborhood without going through me. You want that private community residents only sign replaced. That's going to need my signature. Someone run over the no loitering post near the dog park. Better give me a call. Karen break her ruler measuring mailbox height and need a new HOA approved pole for the neighborhood board. Guess who controls the pole suddenly? My 20-foot flagpole wasn't just a bold statement. It was the new sheriff in town. And this battle, it had only just begun. So, the next HOA meeting rolls around. I show up not with a peace offering, not with an apology, but with a cardboard box tucked under my arm and the calm, focused confidence of a man who has studied the enemy's movements and packed snacks, already sitting at the front like she's hosting the Met Gala for mediocrity, clipboard in hand, glasses halfway down her nose. Smiling like a cat who thinks it's about to watch a canary explode, probably figured I came to beg. I walked up to the table, set the box down nice and gentle, and handed her a packet of paperwork. Thick enough to qualify as a phone book in most small towns. Effective immediately, I said, loud and clear. The price of all future HOA signage, fencing, and custom-engraved lettering has increased by 400%. She blinked. I continued. However, a special discount is available, a full rollback of those price increases if the HOA votes to allow flagpoles on all properties. You could hear a squirrel choke 3 yards away. Grins. Jaw dropped open so far, I could see yesterday's. Kale chip, you can't do that, she snapped, her voice going up half an octave and full banshee. Actually, I smiled. I can, and I just did. But wait, there's more. I reached into the box like I was revealing the grand prize. On The Price is Right, and out came the invoice, $17,890. Due immediately. For the quarterly neighborhood maintenance they had already scheduled through Patriot Foundry LLC, aka me, Incorporated. The room went dead silent. You could feel the air pressure change. One guy audibly gasped. Someone in the back dropped a pen. Ranger, who was waiting outside the window, barked once like it was on cue. and then the main event eye reached into the box again. Slowly, like a magician at a 4th of July kids party, and pulled out a brand new custom-made brass-eagle-topped mirror-finished flagpole engraved right down the shaft. It read, "Presented to Karen Witherspoon by SGT Mark Daniels." In honor of HOA tyrants everywhere, boom, the room exploded. Laughter, applause. One guy wheezed so hard I thought we'd need to call EMS. Somebody in the back shouted, "You legend." And I think I saw Joe give me a slow, solemn salute with his styrofoam coffee cup cran. She snatched up her purse like it was a weapon, muttered something that sounded like legal action, and stormed out of the room with enough force to ruffle everyone's pamphlets. But I wasn't done, no. That night, I drafted a little letter, had it printed, nice and neat, on paper that smelled faintly of accountability and freedom, delivered it personally door-to-door, with Ranger proudly wearing a tiny mail pouch like a Patriot Beagle dot. It read, "Dear neighbors, due to HOA overspending and unnecessary legal action against homeowners, your quarterly dues are now projected to increase by $200. However, we can avoid this increase entirely if we vote to amend Section 8B and allow patriotic displays, including standard flagpoles. Vote smart, vote free. SGT, Mark Daniels, U.S. Army Ret. P.S. Free flagpole installation for veteran families. Neighborhood discount applies." The next vote, unanimous. Karen tried to object via email, but let's just say she was quickly added to the spam folder of public opinion. Gone flagpoles now encouraged. I even launched the Freedom on Every Lawn program, gave out discounts for veteran homes. And within 2 weeks, the neighborhood looked like a Norman Rockwell painting, and the 4th of July had a baby. The age desperate and looking like they'd just lost a civil war with clipboards, came crawling back. They begged me to renegotiate the contract. I said I'd consider it if Kieran stepped down 2 days later. We got a neighborhood-wide email titled, "Personal Decision to Pursue Other Opportunities," from the desk of Karen Witherspoon, and just like that, the dictatorship of decorative mulch was over. Freedom had won, and my flag, still flying 20 feet high, eagle gleaming in the sun, just like it should be. Now, every morning at exactly 7 a.m. sharp, you can hear the sound of 50 American flags snapping in unison up and down Cedar Pines Lane like a symphony of freedom conducted by a bald eagle riding a lawnmower. It starts with mine right, outside my porch, 20 feet high with a brass eagle glinting like it's judging communism. Then one by one, the Hendersons with their double pole setup, Old Joe, who added solar-powered uplighting. Even the vegan yoga couple with their tiny eco-friendly flag and recycled pole still counts. The HOA now has a whole patriotic display encouragement committee. They hand out monthly awards for flagpole etiquette. Karen would have fainted. Speaking of Karen, she packed up, listed her house quietly, and moved to a condo 2 towns over. No HOA, no rules, no clipboards, no laminated bylaws. I heard the neighborhood doesn't even separate the recycling bins. Poor woman's probably in withdrawal. Rumor has it, she tried to report someone for having mismatched patio furniture, and the new neighborhood just told her to take a nap. And me, I got peace. I got Ranger snoozing on the porch swing next to me, snoring like a diesel engine. I got a cold beer in one hand, none of that imported stuff either. The kind with an American flag on the label and questionable FDA approval, and, best of all, I got the view, not of a golf course, not of some overpriced koi pond, but of Old Glory, waving strong and proud, sunlight hitting it just right like it's posing for a military recruitment poster 20 feet up. Right in front of the house. I earned the house. I fought for the right to live in free, because in the end, it wasn't about bylaws. It wasn't about Karen. It wasn't even about the fines. It was about the principle. About standing up even in a retirement neighborhood when something just plain ain't right. So if you ever find yourself driving down Cedar Pines Lane at sunrise, roll your window down. Take it in, you'll hear it. The wind, the snap of 50 flags, and maybe, just maybe, the soft, satisfied sigh of one stubborn old soldier with a beer in his hand, a grin on his face, and no HOA fines in his mailbox, because some hills are absolutely worth dying on, especially if they come with a front porch and a flagpole.